Honestly, with the recordings I've done over the last couple of days, I cannot not record a preview for NXT Stand and Deliver. And when I found out that NXT Stand and Deliver runs at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, it was something that I had to take into consideration. And as far as I'm concerned, that forces me to record it now, which it is 4 o'clock in the morning on April 1st. So I'm recording it to post it later tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon, because by the time I would post it tomorrow afternoon, this show would be on and maybe half over by the time I add it up. Hell, by the time based on when stuff was posted yesterday, it is very obvious that things could have been fully over because of how things were posted yesterday. But let's get to the preview for NXT Stand and Deliver. And it starts with one of the people involved in this contest as Chase U and Tyler Bate go against the Schism. And if the Schism win, then the Schism get control of Chase U. It is Jagger Reed, Joe Gacy, Rip Fowler, and Ava Raine. Ava Raine is making her in-ring debut with NXT in this contest against Chase U in Hale, Duke Hudson, Tyler Bate, and, of course, Andre Chase. It would be, an interesting nugget if Chase University did lose control of the university, if Andre Chase did lose control. But, Chase U seems to have fallen on hard times, I guess you could say. So giving him a little bit of momentum against one of the most spotless factions in NXT would not be the worst idea to do either. So I could see this match going either way. But it is an interesting stipulation, and a stipulation much deserved for a night like for an afternoon like tomorrow, that being WrestleMania weekend. Because also, as it is, we have the news videos, and of course, we have WrestleMania Night 1 tomorrow. So, splitting it up and giving focus to that is something we gotta consider, especially considering the fact that that NXT Stand and Deliver once again is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Central. So it is a very, very early start time for wrestling tomorrow, April 1st, as WrestleMania weekend is officially underway. And we got a three-way tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships as Gallus defends the tag team gold against the Creed brothers and the family, that being Tony D'Angelo and Stax. The tag team division has been shaken to its core, for lack of a better word, with Gallus as the champions, as they are a totally different faction compared, or totally different champions compared to what we saw from the former champions, that being the New Day. But it is great to see the Creed brothers back in the division, back in the running. And if the Creed brothers weren't enough, when was the if seeing the Creed brothers back in the title picture wasn't enough, then seeing a new team like Tony D'Angelo and Stax in the title picture is just as good, maybe better. It's going to be an incredible matchup for the tag team titles. And if you want to talk about long-term booking, if you want to talk about the question of what happens, if you want to talk about what happens when the past meets the present, then look no further than Gargano against Grayson Waller, because Gargano's time in NXT ended with Grayson Waller ending Johnny's time in NXT. And fact of the matter is, if you want to know long-term booking, look no further than this match, because Johnny finally is getting his revenge on a man who ended his run in his home base. He took the heart of NXT away when he took out Johnny Wrestling, and now Johnny is getting some direction. He is getting some revenge against Grayson Waller at NXT Stand and Deliver. And then we got the five-way for the NXT North American Championship as Wesley defends his North American title against Ilya Dragunov, Axiom, JD McDonough, and the newcomer to NXT, that being Dragon Lee. It should be a spectacular match of the night candidate between these 5 men, and it's people of similar styles and similar fortune, and it is the easiest way to get JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov in the same matchup without having them do it one-on-one. And also, it is the easiest way to get the newcomer, Dragon Lee, on programming this soon into his run without actually having him have a set angle or a set feud for him. But I think this is the most the NXT North American Championship has been in jeopardy, or the North American Champion has been in jeopardy since he became the North American Champion. And if that wasn't enough, with multi-man matches, the Women's Championship, we thought it was going to be without the Women's Champion, but that changed when Roxanne Perez returned and inserted herself into the match and made it a 6-person match for the Women's Championship. Roxanne Perez did not want to let her anxiety, let her demons get the better of her. She wanted to prove that she can handle the pressure and the anxiety of being a champion in the WWE, and she is proving that at Stand and Deliver, going against the challengers, that being Zoe Stark, Gigi Dolan, Indy Hartwell, Tiffany Stratton, and Lyra Valkyria, in what should be a crazy 6-person ladder match for the Women's Championship. And it would be interesting to see, in my opinion, if Roxanne Perez actually comes up short and then has to fight from underneath to prove she belongs as NXT Women's Champion, because this is the one type of match, or one of the types of matches, that the Women's Champion doesn't have to lose. But speaking of the Women's Championship, and speaking of doesn't have to lose, the rivalry with Phelan Henley and Kiana James, as Phelan Henley and Phelan Henley and her team with Brooks and Jensen Brooks Jensen, it's a rivalry within a rivalry, or a feud within a feud, and I see that Alba Fire and El Sadon could become the new women's tag team champions, and you move to the next layer of Kiana James and Phelan Henley in their feud, and you shift them out of the tag team title picture and into that next layer to find out if Kiana James actually does have interest in Brooks Jensen. And that there is no better time for that to happen than at NXT Stand and Deliver. Move to the next chapter at the Super Bowl of Wrestling. Waller, Ciampa, Ziggler, and Mahal have all fallen at the feet of the NXT World Champion, Braun Breaker. And Braun Breaker has his toughest challenge to date. You want to add more names to that? Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate is another name that has fallen to Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker has held the title for 3 days off a year. 3 days off a year. I believe it will be 2 days off a year. No, actually, it is. It should be 3 days off a year because, or maybe it will be 2 days off a year. Well, no, technically, no. It is 3 days off a year. No, yeah, it's 3 days off a year because, yeah, it's April 1st, and then he won it on April 4th, so it is 3 days off a year. But it is 3 days off a year. He beat Dolph Ziggler the night after WrestleMania last year, and he has fought every single challenger to date. No matter who it was, he fought him back and let it be. And the fact of the matter is, now, Braun Breaker has his toughest challenge to date, the one person that took control, the one person that fell in line with NXT 2.0 and the Ascension has been together with Braun Breaker, and that is the former NXT North American Champion, Carmelo Hayes. And the fact of the matter is, if Waller didn't do it, if Grayson Waller wasn't the one that dethroned Braun Breaker, then Melo will have it. Melo will do it. Tomorrow at NXT Stand and Deliver, Melo will be the one that takes the belt from Braun Breaker, and Braun will end up getting moved to the main roster. But as I normally do, Melo versus Breaker for the NXT North American for the NXT World Championship. Roxanne Perez against Gigi Dolan. Zoe Stark, Lyra Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton and Indy Hartwell in a 6-person ladder match for the NXT Women's Championship. Kiana James and Phelan Henley against Alba Fire and Elsa Dawn for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. The North American title is on the line in a 5-way. Wesley against JD McDonough, Ilya Dragunov, Dragon Lee, and Axiom in the toughest test for the reigning, defending North American champion. Gargano versus Waller in what is an unsanctioned matchup, a 15 months in the making, a match 15 months in the making, as Gargano finally looks for revenge on the man who took him out with a steel chair when Gargano left NXT. The World Tag Team titles are on the line. Gallus defends against the Creed brothers and Tony D'Angelo and Stacks in what is a showing, or what will be a showing, of what NXT's tag team division will look like following WrestleMania. And speaking of tag team matches, an 8-man tag team match, Duke Hudson, Andre Chase, and Thea Hale with Tyler Bate defend the sanctity of Chase University against the Schism, Joe Gacy, Rip Fowler, Jagger Reed, and the debuting Ava Raine in an 8-person tag team match for Chase University. If the Schism win, then the Schism gain control of Chase University, and Andre Chase loses everything. What happens if that happens? We'll find out tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. It is NXT Stand and Deliver, and it is the beginning of the Super Bowl of Wrestling. It is the beginning of WrestleMania weekend, and the one weekend of the year where everyone puts their differences aside and is just happy to be a wrestling fan. Don't miss it. NXT Stand and Deliver, and later that night, WrestleMania Night 1. It's time. The countdown has reached 0, and it is WrestleMania Day. Let's get going, and I will see you in the next video.